Mac Jones, what do you think about him right now? And then ask yourself, define what you think about Mac Jones right now. What did you think about him in 2017? Had you ever heard of him? Let me just rephrase it. Had you ever heard of Mac Jones in 2015, 16, 17? I can't get over some of these mock drafts. I look at them. I have copyrighted the term mock community. I capitalize the M and the C, and I'm looking at them right now, and they don't quite look like what I thought they'd look like in 2017. So I'm looking at Mac Jones. He is a consensus first rounder, depending on where you look. Everyone's got him first round, but depending on where you look, some have him as high as number 3 overall to right now. That would be the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not here to break down mock drafts. That's not our area of expertise. To be honest with you, many people who put them out, that's not their area of expertise either. Having said that, I just want to assume for a second, for argumentative purposes, let's assume Mac Jones goes number 3. Do you know how insane that'd be? If we're using the revisionist history, if we're looking back on 2017, the praise is valid. So when I talk about how shocking or how amazing this is, I'm not saying he's overrated. I'm not doing anything like that. Mac Jones has validated everything that people are saying about him. Like, he's earned the accolades. That's not what this is about. But as recently as last August, here's why I'm so amazed by him. If you weren't with me and if you were ahead of the curve on this, then that's great for you. I wasn't as smart as you are. Last August, when Director Colin and I were right here doing this show, we would walk into the studio and I'd say, Colin, you know, I think Bryce Young's going to start at Alabama. And then so we get a little bit later in the offseason. And Colin, I still think ultimately it's going to be Bryce Young's job. Mac Jones, he's pushing him though. And then we got into a couple of weeks of fall camp. And then I said, Colin, you know, Mac Jones is probably going to be the starter at Alabama. Eventually it'll be Bryce Young's job. But Mac Jones, man, it sounds like he's doing really good in camp. And then we get to opening week and I'm like, Colin, I think Bryce Young, at some point this year, we're going to see him, but Mac Jones has a stranglehold on that job. There's no longer any question as to who we're going to see starting. And then it was never a question again, was it? The only time you heard the name Bryce Young is if Mac Jones stubbed his toe during a given drive, or if they were up like 75-0 on someone at halftime, which, let's be honest, happened a couple of times. There was never a question. He took the job. He never relinquished it. But I want you to think about that quote. And I want you to think about the perspective that you had about Mac Jones going into the season. Imagine even going into last season, in August of last year, if I were to tell you, Mac Jones is going to be a top 5 pick, I would have thought you were crazy, okay? I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. I would have thought you were crazy. So that's one of many reasons, by the way, that we don't laugh at predictions on the show. We don't make a ton of them, but when we make them and we have other people disagreeing with us, like if you were to tell me you think South Carolina is going to win the SEC East this year, I think you're wrong. I wouldn't laugh at you and call you stupid. To me, that's no crazier than in 2017 saying, Mac Jones, yeah, they got that Tua kid. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is already there. But I'll tell you who's going to go higher than any of them. And that's this Mac Jones kid. You know, the one who was committed to Kentucky, and then you guys got him at Alabama. Yeah, I think that's where he's going to end up. That would have been crazy. So never laugh at predictions, because I want you to imagine this. Go back to 2017. Imagine if I were to offer you this prop bet. And the prop bet is Mac Jones will be drafted higher than the following. And I were to list 5-star running back, Najee Harris, 5-star linebacker, Dylan Moses, 5-star quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. Tua went 5th overall in the draft. If Mac goes 3rd, I did the math. I had stats and info crunch the numbers. That's higher than 5th. So how about Tua? How about 5-star wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, 5-star defensive back Pat Surtain? How about 5-star wide receiver / athlete Jalen Waddle? We've got Devontae Smith. We've got Henry Ruggs. And imagine if I told you, because outside of Moses, and that was due to injury, all these guys have fulfilled their immense potential. And imagine still being told Mac Jones is going to go higher in a draft than every single one of them. If he goes number 3, it likely means that has happened. I want you to give me some odds on that. I hit up Brad Powers the other night, who is exceptional at this sort of thing. I don't even know if he needed a calculator. And I said, Brad, how would those odds look? What kind of number would you put on it? He would have said 200 to 1. I'd go even higher than that. I don't even know if you could go a number high enough. No one would have ever bet on this, unless your dad gave you $10 to just play around with and said, you have to bet it on something. Yeah, maybe then. You know, maybe that's like betting heads 20 straight times in the Super Bowl coin toss. Oh, well, it's not my $10 anyway. So he walked in, just to sum up how amazing this story is. He walked in a couple of years ago, and he walked in and Jalen was already there. But he walked in and Tua was in that class, and he did not get there and then Tua comes in the back door late. He didn't get there and then Tua comes in via transfer. Tua's already in the class, and then Mac Jones says, I want some of that anyway. And it's like, I guarantee you people around him said, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 stars next to this Tua cat's name. Yeah, that's okay. Dude, you're not going to start there. Well, I may not start as a freshman. Yeah, but you may not start, period. Oh, that's okay. And then he stuck it out. And he stayed, and he competed. Then this other kid named Bryce Young comes in. And so some people, maybe even yours truly, just assumed that job was ultimately going to be his. And he said, okay, that's fine. And never ran his mouth. You know, you never heard a whole lot of, I'm fueled off disrespect, even if he is. You never heard a whole lot of that. You never heard any kind of, I don't know, you never heard a lot of the stuff out of Mac Jones' mouth that you normally hear out of a lot of people's mouths. So my point is, I'd love to celebrate that stuff when it happens. It doesn't happen a whole lot, to be honest with you, and it's probably going to happen less and less in the transfer era. But he should be a poster child, not just for Nick Saban, but for any coach out there who's going through this every offseason and who has a quarterback room. I'll tell you, Ed Orgeron is probably going to deal with this soon. A lot of these coaches who get a talented kid who's not going to start right away, they're going to deal with this soon enough of having to look a kid who is good enough to start at other places in the eye and saying, here's why you should stay. Well, it's not just theoretical. You can take Mac Jones and hey, Wikipedia, that kid's name. Hey, look at this piece of paper. Look at this, what our graphics and info department printed out. This is the timeline of Mac Jones. I'm showing that to every one of the kids, quarterback and otherwise. I'm showing that to the kids on my roster. And furthermore, if I'm Steve Sarkisian and I walk into the living room of a prospective athlete, quarterback anywhere on offense, but especially quarterback, I probably don't talk for the first 10 minutes of the visit. I probably walk in, I say, head nod, shake the hand, wave to everyone in the living room, and I say, dim the lights, and I hit the space bar, and starting a presentation on my laptop, I show what Mac Jones was when he got there and what Mac Jones is leaving there and what I did for him and what I could do for you. So congratulations to Mac Jones. I don't even know where he's going to go in the draft, but congratulations.